People want to make the jokes about Scalabrini, White Mamba, all that stuff. But dude, in all honesty, for true Nets fans, this was like an insane game. And yeah, man, I hope it doesn't get lost in history. Yeah, I know all the jokes, but yeah, Scal definitely stepped up here. All right. So we're doing game five, Nets versus Pistons, 2004 Eastern Conference semifinals, triple overtime classic, the Scalabrini game to Nets fans, the Chaun-
Yeah.
the Chauncey Billups half court shot to Pistons fans, and then to all the other people, like you decide what you want to call this game. But little backstory on this game. It's actually a rematch of two teams that faced off the year before, the New Jersey Nets and the Detroit Pistons. They met up the year before in the Eastern Conference Finals, with the Nets sweeping the Pistons 4-0 en route to their second straight NBA Finals. This year, things look a little bit different. Detroit, they retooled around the trade deadline of the 03-04 season. They pull a heist, a robbery, acquiring Rasheed Wallace from the Atlanta Hawks in a three-team trade for practically nothing. They give up like Bobby Sura is probably like the biggest name they gave up. Bobby Sura, Mr. Chasing a Triple Double. They gave him up. They got Rasheed Wallace. This season, the Pistons improve. They go from 50 wins the year prior to 54. The Nets, on the other hand, they take a little bit of a step back. They go 2 games less from 49 wins the year before to 47. Nets had a whole bunch of turmoil this season. They fired their head coach, Byron Scott, midway through the season, replaced him with coach Lawrence Frank, who, fun fact, I remember like, because, we were Nets fans growing up. Lawrence Frank gets hired as Nets coach and wins like 14 games in a row to start off his career. And it was like, oh man, we fixed the problem now, right? That's how the regular season goes. We move on to the playoffs. The Pistons meet the Bucks in the first round, beat them in five, quick work. The Nets meet the Knicks, sweep them in the first round 4-0, which was beautiful to watch as a kid. And that brings us to this second round matchup, Nets versus Pistons, a battle of two of the better defensive teams in the NBA. The Nets were fourth in offensive points per game this season. The Pistons were number two. So that's some pretty good defense going on, or at least you would think. So the first 4 games of this series, I mean, it's dependent on the person, but they were all lopsided victories. Like Detroit won their first 2 games at home by a combined 37 points, and the Nets put up a stinker in game one of this series, putting up 56 points, which was a franchise low up to that point, and I would like to think that that's still a franchise low. Nets regroup. They go back to the Meadowlands for games 3 and 4. Just mollywop the Pistons, win those 2 games by a combined 33 points, hold the Pistons to 64 points in game 3. So there is some defense going on in this series. You don't just hold a team to 56 and 64 points just, out of luck. So that brings us to game 5. A couple of things you should know about this series. Inactive for the Pistons this night is second overall pick Darko Milicic. Just, I don't want to keep throwing saw in the open wound, but yeah, I'm pretty sure if the Pistons picked anyone else besides Darko, it would have been a welcome sight for this game, because there was some spots in this game where both teams were scrapping for like offense and points. And if you got like a Melo in this game or a Dwayne Wade, that would have definitely helped push Detroit over. And for the Nets, it was interesting enough. If people don't remember this, I don't blame you. But this was the season that Alonzo Mourning signed with the Nets. He leaves Miami, signs with the Nets. It was supposed to be like a replacement for Mutombo the year before. It didn't work out, man. Some kidney complications. He retires through the season. But if you watch this game, which is online, throughout certain points of this game, you could see Alonzo Mourning like in the Nets bench. Like he's in a suit, but he's there with the Nets, which is still pretty cool, man. Like it's dope to think that at one point, like Alonzo Mourning was a net. So that's that. And last but not least, Rasheed Wallace plays 48 minutes this game with plantar fasciitis. You would probably know what that is in his
Yeah, I
left
got that.
foot. So what exactly is that? I don't even know what that is.
So it's basically like the plantar fascia is like the part under. It's like basically like if you look at your hand, there's like muscles right here, right?
Yeah,
But imagine your foot has the same thing. Like imagine your foot like this. There's muscles underneath your foot. So that gets inflamed. So like this whole like muscle area here gets inflamed. That's like the itis part of fasciitis. That means inflammation of the plantar fascia. And it just hurts to walk. It feels tight. It feels like you're like about to tear that like tendon like underneath your foot, and then everything else gets tight after that. Like your foot gets tight, then your calf gets tight, then your hamstring gets tight, and your whole leg is compromised. So yeah, that's why then if it's really bad, it's either your foot hurts a lot or your whole leg hurts a lot, and you start limping. And Rasheed Wallace was limping. Like there were a couple of times they would really like be like, "Oh, it looks like Rasheed Wallace is struggling."
Really feel for Rasheed, Coach. He is out there. He's giving it what he's got, but he cannot push off that foot. It's very tough for him to establish any kind of post position.
And as time goes on, he's going to feel it a lot more.
And yeah, that's obviously these guys are playing at a high level, and they're playing like every other day, like in the playoffs, like one game, then they skip a day, then one game. So it's gonna be tough to recover. The main thing is stretching, but even then, like if you're playing 48 minutes and then you're playing 48 minutes every other day, it's gonna get tight.
right.
Like this is the series is tied 2-2.
Yeah,
Like
the series is
this game
tied
5 is
2-2.
pivotal. Yeah, it's a pivotal game 5. And on the other end, like while I was watching the game, you could see it was Kings and T Wolves on the other end of like the bracket, like in the West Coast. And it just took me back, man. I'm like, man, the T Wolves were really good back then, you know?
And the
Like,
Sacramento Kings.
yeah, and the Kings, like it's crazy like how different the West is now. It's like Kings and Timberwolves were really good back then, and now it's like you don't even see the Kings or the Timberwolves, man.
Yeah, they both had the longest playoff droughts in the league at the same time. They had this nice little stretch, early 2000s, and then mid 2000s just went on a long stretch where they didn't make the playoffs. All right, so I want to run through all, I guess, 7 quarters because it's a triple overtime classic. 7 quarters. I want to run through them all. Some obviously have a little more to unpack than others. So, starting with the first quarter, these are some things, some talking points that I picked out watching this game. The Pistons start off the game pretty hot, 6 for 6 to start off the game. And then right after that, they go scoreless for 6.5 minutes. During that drought, the Nets go on a 15-0 run and grab a 25-13 lead in the first quarter. The quarter ends 25-19. The Pistons rattle off 6 in a row. We conclude the first quarter 25-19. Kenyon Martin and Kerry Kittles combined for 19 of the 25 net points, which was like, it was crazy, man. I was watching that first quarter and I noticed it. I was like, yo, Detroit hasn't scored in a minute. Like the Nets just keep scoring on them. And then right when I noticed, the announcers say it, and I was like, oh yeah, all right, cool. It's like it's nice that I noticed that. But a 15-0 run to start off the game, 6.5 minutes scoreless, and like that's what comes with the Nets and the Pistons. These teams were super defense oriented. Sometimes they struggled on offense, and that like there was multiple examples of like droughts in this game. Both teams went in some droughts. That was the very first one. The Pistons, 6.5 minutes in the first quarter without a field goal. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I definitely noticed the like from the previous game that we watched, Kittles wasn't making threes, man. Like it was mostly like mid-range jumpers. And like from when I was a kid, I felt like Kerry Kittles was like really good at threes, but it seemed like he was more of like a mid-range guy.
Yeah, he had like a nice mid-range shot. I mean, he could make the three, but obviously he wasn't like an elite shooter. He's not the Kyle Korvers, Steph, Clays of the world. He just happened to be the best three-point shooter on the Nets. He could make them, but definitely, yeah, he had a good mid-range shot. And like the dude was a cutter, man. Like play the passing lanes, fast break, layups, dunks.
Yeah.
That was Kerry Kittle's game. But one more key talking point I want to mention with this first quarter, because this becomes a trend as well in this game. Rip Hamilton picks up his second foul with 4 minutes and 36 seconds left in the first quarter. Keep that in mind because he does foul out in this game. You know, just a spoiler alert. A lot of people foul out in this game. It's a triple overtime game. Let's move on to the second quarter, man, because that was kind of really all I had for the first quarter.
Yeah.
And I forgot to mention this at the beginning. The first half of this game is pretty much like a tale of two quarters. Like I said, the Nets go on a 15-0 run in the first quarter. Second quarter, the Pistons go on a 23-11 run of their own to end the first half and actually lead this game 44-43 at halftime. Kenyon Martin, who got off to a really hot start in this game, I think he scored like maybe 12, I think, in the first quarter. Plays 46 seconds in the second quarter, goes scoreless. The Nets as a team really struggle this quarter. They shoot 7 for 17 field goal. It's not the worst, but they have 8 turnovers in this second quarter. So anytime, in my opinion, you have more turnovers than made field goals in a quarter, that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, that's definitely like I saw like at one point I think the Nets had like 21 turnovers in the game, and I was like, this is too much, man. Like they're playing so sloppy. There there was a play like at the beginning of the third, like just to move on real quick, like there was like a play where Jason Kidd did like a weird teardrop, and just remembering that possession is weird. It's like why
I think I know what player you're talking about.
yeah, it's like why are they taking these weird shots? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like in
it was weird. It was weird.
yeah, so that those things like that is like get more set shots, you know what I mean? Or get some fouls, drive it in. Like it seemed that teardrop was weird to me because it seemed like he didn't want to get fouled, but then he also didn't want to like set up and shoot. Like it was a weird spot like he was put in. And that kind of like summed up the offense for me at that point when the Nets were struggling. Like it seemed like they didn't know what to do. Like no one really, even the announcers say they're like, no one really wants to like take like the lead and like try to dominate. You know, everyone was kind of like, oh no, you shoot it, or oh I'll pass it to you. You do something with it. That's how it felt.
Yeah, as you watch this game, like both teams have plenty of opportunities to make some space in between like each other. And it's like they can. They get like up 6 points, then the other team goes on like a 6-0 run or 8-0 run, and all of a sudden they go from down 6 to up 2, and they just keep going like that. This game was pretty closely played throughout the entire game, right? Let's get into some of the first half stats. The Pistons shoot 18 for 37 in the first half. The Nets shoot 17 for 35. When I was doing my research, if you take those numbers, they're literally both 48.6%. These teams shot the exact same percent in the first half. And it makes sense. It's a 1 point game. I think at this point, the Nets might have been making some more threes, I think, and the Pistons might have been getting some more free throws. I think that's what kind of like kept it close. But I mean, dude, that's about as close as you can get, man. The exact same field goal percentage, 30 plus shots. And last but not least, the other thing that stood out for me in the second quarter, just mentioning this because this is to me, this is the Brian Scalabrine game. Scalabrine comes in the second quarter and goes on a personal 8-0 run while the Pistons were making that comeback.
Yeah.
Scal makes 2 threes from I think the same corner, like I think it was the left corner, and he steps in on one and makes a mid-range shot. So it's kind of like, yo, if Scalabrini, man, he comes through so clutch in this game. If this dude isn't scoring these 8 points in this first quarter, in this second quarter, the Nets could easily be down 6+ at halftime, 8 maybe. So yeah, man, like Scalabrini was definitely clutch for the Nets, and it would like this game as we go along. It's truly like a team effort, bro. Even later on, Lucius Harris, there's some points where guys have fouled down. The Nets are scrapping for points. They got some weird lineups out there, and it's like boom, Lucius Harris with a clutch 3, clutch 2, and you're like, yo, this was really like a grinded out team win. But what do you think about the first half, man? They both shoot exactly the same 1 point Pistons lead.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like when personally, me watching the game, uh, it was it wasn't that it wasn't exciting. It just like it was kind of like yeah, like okay, the Nets dominate the first quarter, and then Pistons dominate the second quarter, and they're both pretty much tied. Like that was it. Like there wasn't any crazy like thing that happened where like someone got dunked on or something. Like I did see some like classic RJ like dunks, but then he got into foul trouble, so he wasn't in the game for too long.
100%, man. So let's move on. Let's segue that into the third quarter, man. In the third quarter, the Nets have their own scoring drought. 4.5 minutes without a field goal made. But despite that, despite these 4.5 minutes of not scoring, they still lead 63-62 entering the fourth quarter. The main thing for the Nets this quarter was their free throw shooting because they were getting to the line. 12 for 12 from the line in this quarter. They shot 4 for 19 field goals this quarter. That's pretty bad, man. I want to say if it's 20, that's 5. That's like I think that might not even be 20% shooting that quarter for the Nets. So
Yeah, it
they
was
were
pretty bad.
yeah, they were living at the free throw line that quarter. Pretty much the only reason they were still in the game. Much like you said, Richard Jefferson picks up his fourth foul in this quarter with 6:36 to play, which is midway through the third quarter. One of your better players, 4 fouls. That's not a good sign as well. It's crazy how the Nets weathered some of these storms. And Kenya Martin picks up his fourth foul with 5:22 to play in this quarter. So you're basically midway through the third quarter. You got your starting 4 and your starting 3, 4 fouls. Not a good sign for the Nets.
Yeah,
Uh,
I saw Rip Hamilton was like the leader in assists. Like he had 8 assists to start the third quarter.
yeah, I remember
So
that.
it seemed like he was doing a lot of facilitating. Like Ben Wallace was getting these nice, like spoon fed dunks. Like it just seemed like Rip was making it easier for the Pistons. Like all the points that the Nets made seemed kind of tough. Like they were jumpers. They were on the line, like you said, a lot on the line. So they were putting a lot of way more difficult shots in, and the Pistons, it seemed like it was smooth. Like Rip Hamilton was playing really well.
Detroit is playing the better basketball.
But the Nets lead, and that's pretty good. They're on the road.
Yeah, so this quarter the Pistons shoot 8 for 19. It's not the best, but yeah, it is what it is. 8 for 19 shooting. Hamilton picks up his fourth foul with 3:50 to play. So we got 3 starters with 4 fouls, and we're not even in the fourth quarter yet. So that's like I said, man, a lot of dudes foul out in this game. That's something to definitely keep your eye on because the rotations they slim down as this game goes along. Like the Nets had some rosters out there, some lineups that I'm like, damn, this is like you're scraping, to try and get some production. Heading into the fourth quarter, I want to talk about this sequence real quick. Let me scroll up real quick because it's it's kind of a long sequence, but it starts at the 3:13 mark in the fourth quarter. The Pistons are up 82-80. Kenyon Martin drives on Ben Wallace. Ben Wallace blocks him, ties him up, jump ball. They jump up. They do the jump ball. The ball lands right in Chauncey Billups' hand, and they just get a fast break started off a jump ball. It was pretty crazy. He goes down court. He draws a foul on Jason Collins. Billups goes to the line. Billups is like an 80-something%, maybe even 90% free throw shooter for his career. He goes to the line, makes one of two. So the Pistons are leaving points on the board. The score is 83-80. The next play, Billups gets a steal on Jason Kidd, leads to another Pistons fast break. I think it was Billups and Ben Wallace down there, and I forgot who the net was. Chauncey Billups literally gets a point-blank layup, and it clanks off the back of the backboard and misses.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And you take those two plays into consideration, and you're like, yo, Chauncey, he normally makes his free throws. And how often are you going to miss a point blank layup like that? In my opinion, that little sequence right there stood out because the Pistons left 3 points on the board, and they could have easily been up by 6 with 3 minutes left to play in the fourth quarter. But they, like I said, sometimes the ball doesn't go your way. It bounces in the opposite way, whatever, to the benefit of the Nets on this one. And then the next play I want to talk about, 2 minutes and 29 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Kenyon Martin gets called for a loose ball foul, battling with Ben Wallace. 6th foul. He's out of the game. So now the Nets just lost their starting power forward, and they're down 3 with under 3 minutes to play, 2.5 to play. Not looking good for the Nets. Ben Wallace goes down, 2 free throws, misses 1. That's expected of Ben Wallace. He actually shoots 4 for 12 from the line this game. Ben Wallace shoots 4 for 12. That's a lot of points being left at the line. And this got me to thinking, right? We might be veering off, but you know how nowadays in the NBA, they say, oh, man, you can't play this guy. He's a liability. You can't play him. He can't shoot. He can't make free throws. They're giving Ben Simmons that crap right now as we speak. And I just got to thinking, how valuable would Ben Wallace be in today's NBA? Teams would just be hunting him out. Just, hey, shoot. If you're more than 5 feet from the basket, we're just sagging off of you, just completely ignoring you on offense, forcing you to shoot. Oh, he's by the rim? Whack him, man. Put him at the line. He's going to miss. He's going to miss one for sure. And if he misses both, then that's even better. So that was just like an interesting thing because 4 for 12, that's rough, man. That's 33% from the line. He makes one of the two. Pistons go up by 4. And the last thing I wanted to say for the Pistons in this quarter was Hamilton actually fouls out with 1:40 left to play. So, you know, the playing field is starting to level out a little. You got Kenyon Martin out for the Nets. Rip Hamilton fouls out for the Pistons. What do you think?
Yeah, I noticed that Rip Hamilton had 11 assists this game. So he was big, man. Like, he was facilitating when Chauncey wasn't. It seemed like Chauncey wasn't really in that facilitator role, but Chauncey was scoring. There was a point where in the third and fourth, Chauncey Billups started scoring a lot. So at least he brought the scoring, but the assist game, Hamilton was there.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes Chauncey Billups was actually a little overly aggressive. Like he was taking some shots at some points where I was like, dude, I don't know if that's a good shot or not. But yeah, Hamilton for sure, man. I think it was in the second quarter when he picked up his 8th assist. The announcer mentions it. And I remember like having to go into the research and being like, yo, for real? Like, is this for real? Went to Basketball Reference, saw 7 assists in the first quarter. I was like, damn, bro. Rip Hamilton was like really facilitating the offense in the first quarter for the Pistons.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I when he got fouled out, that was when I thought like the Nets had a chance because it was like I don't think without Kenny Martin they're gonna survive. But yeah, then Rip gets fouled out. Kind of starts evening out. And then everybody's just starting to get fouled. Oh, and I forgot to mention, there was a point that Jason Collins got the ball around the free throw line, and he shot a jumper, bro. Air ball.
Oh man, I must have missed
It was
that.
terrible, dude.
I must have
Oh
missed
my
that.
god, bro. When I saw that, I immediately thought, how did we have this guy? And how did we even make it as far as we made it, dude? Like, this guy was like no offense, bro.
Yeah,
And not
and
even like crazy defense. It wasn't like something where he was getting 3 blocks a night or something.
yeah, and he actually became even more of an offensive liability as his career went on. Because if you
My
look up
God.
Jason Collins' first couple of years in the league, at least he was a good free throw shooter. Those last couple of years on the Nets, he dropped to like 50% from the line. And dude, every time I used to see Jason Collins on the court, more so later on with the Nets, like 05, 06, every time I saw Jason Collins, I was just like, dude, like there's really no better option around the league than this guy. He's literally a zero on offense.
Yo, I realized watching this game and the previous game where we had Todd McCullough, bro, our center position was our biggest weakness, bro.
Yeah, all those years. That's why the Nets were always trying to
Yeah,
fill it with Mutombo, Alonzo Mourning, and they just were never working out.
that's disappointing. Yeah, man. This just I saw that air ball and immediately I was like, this is why. This is why. Like, it's just clearly why we didn't like win a championship. We didn't
Yeah,
have us like if we had a center that could pull Shaq out or pull Tim Duncan or whoever's playing them, if they could pull him out and that center could say, "Hey, I can hit a jumper. You got to defend me." It's a completely different game.
yeah, the Nets always struggle with that, man. One of the saddest days of my basketball life was when the Nets traded Jason Kidd. But one of the best days of my life was probably like a couple months later when we traded Jason Collins. I was
Yeah,
like,
that's good.
I was like, there is a God, man. The Jason Collins era is finally over.
Yeah,
We had to watch this guy for I want to say 7 years on the Nets. And sometimes he was okay. Sometimes he was decent, but you always just felt like, yo, if the Nets had someone out here who could put the ball in the basket a little bit more, we might take that next step, you know? Um,
yeah.
but yeah, let's move on from that, man. Some of the things I gathered from the Nets side in this fourth quarter was Kidd gets fouled with 11.6 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Nets are up 87-85. Kidd goes up to the line, clanks them both, dude. Clanks them both. And I remember watching this game as a kid. I think I was 12 when this game happened, or I was like 11 going on 12. I remember being so mad, dude. I'm like, how does this guy miss them both? At least hit one. You're up three. We're at least guaranteed to go to overtime. He misses them both. Pistons get the rebound, hand it off to Chauncey Billups. He goes full court, bro. Blows by, I think, Kerry Kittles. Has a layup right at the rim, dude. And RJ comes in and straight up has a LeBron James block before LeBron was even in the league. Comes out of nowhere, chase down blocks Chauncey Billups, slaps it off the rim, has to duck. He's so high up, just so he doesn't hit his head on the backboard. And you're thinking, okay, this is it. This is the game saving block. This is a highlight in his career. RJ's going ape shit, bro. Like it's hilarious. He gets that block. He's going ape shit celebrating. The Pistons crowd is totally out of it. Kerry Kittles gets the rebound off the block. Ben Wallace fouls him. Kerry Kittles comes down, makes one of two, Mix the second one. The score is 88-85. Pistons are inbounding the ball. Chauncey Billups gets the inbound pass, comes down court, or not even down court, gets that like 2 steps ahead of half court and hits the infamous half court bank shot. And the
Yeah,
reason
that
why I
was crazy.
mentioned the reason why I'm mentioning this is because to just break it down, the Nets had 4 free throws and missed 3 of them in that latter stage, in those last couple seconds of the game. Dude, go 2 for 4, and this is over. It's a 4-point game. Kid goes 0 for 2. Kerry Kittles goes 1 for 2. Leaves the door open for the infamous Chauncey Billups half court shot. Pistons freaking crowd is going ape shit with good reason. If I was like in Continental Airlines Arena and like a net hit that shot to tie the game, I'd be going ape shit. Crowd's going insane, and we're heading into overtime, and it looks like all the life is sucked out of the Nets, and it looks like the Pistons have all the momentum going forward.
Yeah, that last part of the game was super disappointing. Even Billups getting that shot, like that shouldn't happen, dude. Like like everybody should have been at the 3-point line. Just let him get a 2-pointer. Like there's just ways of playing this that like that shouldn't have happened, man.
Dude, it looked like Kerry Kittles was barely even trying. He
Yeah,
let
man, Kiddo's defense was terrible on Billups.
yeah, he let Chauncey just catch that pass clean. Just he was having like just free dribbles. Like Kittles is not even up on him,
Yeah.
harassing him, just letting Chauncey bring it up. I think he blows by Kerry Kittles and then gets the clean look from half court. Like, regardless, that's a low percentage shot, but you got to play that better, man. I'm telling you, the Nets were ranked 4th in offensive opponents' points per game this season. Like, if you're a good defensive team, you can't let that happen, man. Especially in a swing game 5.
No, that's the whole thing with that Damian Lillard thing where I think it was against OKC with Paul George,
Yeah.
where he Paul George like sagged off and Dame Lillard hit that crazy shot and he said he practiced that. Yeah, man, it's a low percentage shot, but you still gotta be there. Like you gotta be up on him.
Yeah, man. But like, what do you think, man? Like, I want to ask you this. Do you remember watching this game as a kid?
I feel like it was really late. Like I would usually go to sleep earlier. So I think after the maybe third, I was probably like going to sleep. Like I don't think I stayed up that late.
Oh man. Yeah, man. I remember this game, and when Billups hit that half court shot, it honestly it looked like all the momentum was for the Pistons, and all you're thinking is, okay, the Pistons are gonna go into the first overtime and just take this. You know, it looked like the Nets just had all the life sucked out of them. Like RJ was celebrating, man. When he got that chase down, he's going ape shit. And it looked the Nets were acting like they won this game already. And then you have a miracle shot like that, 5 minutes back on the board to walk back onto the court is just like, how are you not just like, oh shit? It's like when LeBron, excuse me, when J.R. Smith had that mistake in game 1 against Golden State in the 2018 finals.
Oh yeah, classic.
Yeah, like a lot of people who were talking on ESPN about that game, they're like, "Yo, that was the Cavs' opportunity right there to steal that game." Like once that mistake happened, it just looked like the Cavs just had the life sucked out of them coming back on the court, and Golden State just took advantage of them. It just obviously this game is way before that one, but kind of the similar situation. I just thought the Nets were going to fold, but we know that they didn't. So, you got anything else to say before we move on to first overtime?
No, I was just like now that you asked me about it, I'm looking it up. I think it says May 14th was
2004.
yeah, like that's it says it was a Friday. So I don't
Yeah,
know
that's
what I
why
was doing.
that's why I remember this game, man. It was Friday. I didn't. There was no school the next day.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a lot of weird shit that I did, like when I was young. That was like I was like 13. I remember some shit that I was doing on Saturdays back then that I don't want to talk about on the podcast. So I think I had to go to sleep early. Let's just
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah, man. Well, let me find out you were like some sort of like capo back in a different life. But anyways, yeah, let's move
No.
on, man. First overtime. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this one because this was honestly the least entertaining of the three overtimes. Couple talking points. Aaron Williams fouls out with 450, excuse me, with 4:45 left in this overtime period. Scalabrine comes in to replace him. Ben Wallace fouls out with 2:21 left to go in this overtime. So if you're keeping track, that's Ben Wallace out and Richard Hamilton out for the Pistons. For the Nets, you got Kenya Martin out and Aaron Williams. So yeah, man, the fouls are piling up. People are getting DQ'd, I guess, disqualified from the game. Uh, Richard Jefferson gets fouled at the end of this game, like towards like the last minute, I want to say. He goes, I think, 1 for 2 from the free throw line, ties the game up at 99 apiece. Last two possessions of the first overtime, Nets get a 24-second violation, which was insane, bro. Like they mentioned it later on in this game. The Nets have 5 24-second violations in this game, which is like crazy, man. That just goes with what we said about the Pistons defense, especially this season. Last shot of this overtime, Billups has a three from, I want to say, like the left corner, airballs it, 99 up, going into the second overtime. Do you have anything you want to say about this one? This overtime period? That's all I had.
Yeah. Ben Wallace got fouled out, and there were 70 plus free throw attempts by the end of the first quarter. 70
Yeah,
plus. So
I have those numbers pulled up for the end, man. It's a lot of free throws.
yeah, so man, it's just free throws, like you said. Ben Wallace, if you make some free throws, man, you win the game. It's the
Yeah,
name of
four
the
for 12.
game. But yeah, that was it for the first.
All right, so we go into the second overtime period. Scalabrine hits a three from the top of the key over
Scalabrine is the
Rashid.
man.
Yeah, he hits this three from the top of the key over the outstretched arms of Rasheed Wallace, puts the Nets up 102 to 99 with 3:17 left to play. And these next three plays, this one included that I'm gonna mention, are like they're just clutch, bro. The next play down, the Nets, excuse me, Jim, I can't like get my words out. The next play down for the Nets, Kid pulls up for three, makes it with 2:44 left to play. The Nets are up 105-101. And then after that, the next Nets possession, Kid drives, the defense collapses. He kicks it out to Richard Jefferson in the right corner, wide open for three, swish. The Nets are up 108-103 with 2:13 to play. The reason I mention these three possessions, because there are three possessions in the row for the Nets that they get 3-pointers. And, the Nets they weren't known as being a 3-point shooting team during these NBA finals or contending years with like Martin and Kidd. But to get three straight possessions that you're making threes in a second overtime was clutch, man, for the Nets. And after those three possessions, the Pistons go on an 8-2 run to make it 111-110. During that 8-2 Pistons run, the Nets have another one of their 5 24-second violations. And they also, 24-second violations. I don't know if I said
Yeah,
5 second. But the next play down, they get a 5-second violation. So 24-second violation, next possession, 5-second inbound violation. Just not taking care of the ball, man. Not taking care of the ball. And that's what let the Pistons get right back into this game and make it. The Pistons actually take the lead. They're up 111-110. So the Nets are down now.
Yeah, it was tough to see like some of these plays, like all the turnovers, the 24-second violations, like yeah, even like I said, the air ball. Like I don't even I think an air ball counts as a turnover. At least I would hope so. I don't know.
No, I don't think it
But
does because it's technically a shot attempt. It just you didn't hit anything.
but it's just so bad. All right. But yeah, man, it's just a lot of wasted possessions, man. Like this, like literally, if you just like, there are some teams that don't have 24-second shot clock violations throughout the entire game. Like there are multiple teams that play games with no shot clock violations. So if you just eliminate these shot clock violations, probably win the game before the first overtime.
Yeah, and just man, just it has to be mentioned, bro. Scalabrini with 40 seconds left in the second overtime makes an insane save. Like RJ has the ball at the top of the key, shoots a three. I want to say it hits like the left side of the backboard, and it's like it hits it strong enough that it goes to the left, and it's going out of bounds pretty quickly. And there's like a Piston player there, I forget who it was, that he kind of like plants himself there to like protect it from no one trying to like save the ball. Scalabrini just hauls ass, dude, gets around them and like with 1 foot still in, grabs it and throws it back in play. The Nets pick it up. And that same exact possession, after they get that offensive rebound, Richard Jefferson gets fouled, goes to the line, hits one of two, and ties the game back up. And that's basically how we go into the third overtime. And I just mentioned that play because that's another one of these clutch plays, bro. If Scalabrini doesn't make that save, like the Nets might lose. And why else? Also, like another reason why this play is clutch. I'm telling you, Jefferson gets fouled that possession. The guy who fouls him is Rasheed Wallace. Picks up his sixth foul on that play. He's out of the game now. So that was a big momentum play right there by Scalabrini. That's when Wallace fouls out with the 48 minutes played. But plantar fasciitis or not, I want Rasheed Wallace out there. He's now out of the game, man. What do you think about that? Like, do you remember that play when Scalabrini makes that save?
Yeah, man, Scalabrini, I gotta say, is like the MVP of this game. I know he didn't play the whole game, but Scalabrini just comes in and starts taking over. He starts scoring. Like sometimes I feel like why didn't Scalabrini play more of a role, man? Like the guy was a good 3-point shooter, probably the best on the team. Like from what I'm just seeing in this game, like he's shooting threes. Kerry Kittle's not. Lucius Harris is making a few, not too many, but dude, Scalabrini, man, like hats off to him, man. I remember seeing him come up and play well for the Nets. Like I never really had anything bad to say about him, man.
Yeah, man. And it was pretty cool because the next game after this one, game 6, is in the Meadowlands. And there's a point where Brian Scalabrine checks in and the crowd gives him a standing ovation. And it's beautiful. That's on YouTube as well. If anyone wants to look it up. I might when I edit this video, I might put that in the description in case anyone just wants to go see that. I'll spoon feed you it. But it was for a good reason. He's literally the savior of this game, which is like insane. People want to make the jokes about Scalabrini, White Mamba, all that stuff. But dude, in all honesty, for true Nets fans, this was like an insane game. And yeah, man, I hope it doesn't get lost in history. Yeah, I know all the jokes, but yeah, Scal definitely stepped up here. In the second overtime, the Nets shoot 4 for 7 as a team, 3 for 5 from three. So the three ball kept them alive in this overtime period. Pistons shoot 4 for 8, and we're off to the third overtime, 111 to 111. This is pretty crazy for this series because the first 4 games of this series have been really low scoring. I think the highest amount of points that a team has put up in this series so far was Detroit, had like 95 in one of the games. So pretty low scoring, and we're in the like 111 up, man. For sure. We go into the third overtime period. One play that was like borderline hilarious, bro, that stood out is with 4:21 to play. I think Corliss Williamson drives in for a layup, misses it. Darvin Ham flies in out of nowhere, dude, like he's like a karate master or something, grabs the ball, point blank layup at the rim. He misses it. And I'm like, yo, these are these plays for Detroit that you're like, yo, you're leaving points on the floor, man. Like you can't win this game if you're missing a point blank uncontested layup, right? That happens with 4:21 to go. Another play that stood out for me in this quarter was when Lindsey Hunter drove into the paint and he kind of goes up for like a runner, I guess he's gonna go up for. Kid comes from behind, dude, and kind of just like takes the ball away from him. And that play, I was like, dude, like this is why Jason Kidd was like an amazing defender, man. This play right here, like who the hell does stuff like that? Just cookies it from Lindsey Hunter, and that leads to a 3-on-1 Nets fast break. Beautiful ball movement, gets into the hands of Lucius Harris, and one layup. Nets go up 114-111. That was a huge momentum play right there. And it was caused by the Nets defense, their calling card.
Yeah, I definitely thought, like, at the end of the game, you see that Jason Kidd and Scalabrine get interviewed. And it's true, man. Both of those guys made it to the end of the game. Kidd even more because he started the game and he didn't foul out. So that was crazy in and of itself, just for him to play the entire game like that. And Scalabrine with the shots. And Kidd, like this game, at the end, he ends up like getting a cut in his nose. So it's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, like it just adds to like the drama, you know?
Yeah,
But
100%, man. Couple more things in this quarter. Lucius Harris hits a jumper from the left corner with 2:32 to go. That puts the Nets up 116-113. And that goes with what I said earlier. Like there was a lot of plays where the Nets needed a basket. And I guess unsung heroes came through. Lucius Harris, Brian Scalabrine, of course. And right after that play, Kid gets a steal on an inbound, not an inbound pass. Like Billups has the ball. He tries to get it in the paint, pass it into the paint. Kid steals it. The Nets come down court. They're starting to milk some time off of the clock. They get it into Richard Jefferson's hands. He's on the right corner, has Tayshaun Prince on him, backs him down, spin move, and one layup. And that put the Nets up 119-113 with 156 to go. At that point, you're like, all right, the Nets are in the driver's seat. They're starting to get a little cushion in between them. They might start clamping down, and they're going to run away with this game. But no, this game is full of thrills, and the Pistons have an unsung hero in Mike James. This guy comes down court, hits a three, and then the next play drives and kicks it to Corliss Williamson for a wide open layup. 119 to 118, a minute and 6 to go. And you're thinking, oh man, here we are again. The Pistons have regained the momentum. They're down one. Their crowd's back into it. You're thinking, can the Nets pull this out? You got anything to say for that?
no, nothing, man. Yeah, that's just like it was a tough game, but right here after this, then they pretty much go on their own little run and they win the game.
So that leads to the infamous play, the play of legends. Richard Jefferson has the ball, drives into the paint, spin moves. The Pistons collapse. There's like 3 Pistons around him, or maybe even 4. Kicks it to the left corner, wide open Brian Scalabrine, swap, puts the Nets up 4. with 41.5 seconds left to go. Just a clutch shot, man. I remember being a kid going ape shit when that shot went in because we didn't see Scalabrini. He never got any burn. And here he is, just like I've seen memes of Scalabrini where he's like checking into the game and they Photoshop like a Superman costume on him. And he's like doing that thing where he's like opening it. That was like literally what it felt like in this game. Brian Scalabrini was the Superman making every clutch play for the Nets. And after this, man, the Pistons never recovered. You know, they had a couple opportunities to cut into the lead, but ultimately they just couldn't, man. Couple foul shots, and the Nets take this one 127 to 120. Triple overtime classic, man. One of the greatest games I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, man. Scalabrini, I think he has 16, if I'm not mistaken. But
Yeah.
every single one of those points was just much needed, man. And Richard Jefferson as well. You said he had 31 and 11. He played great, man. And I want to talk about Jefferson too because people remember him for like the latter portion of his career. A lot of these younger fans, his time in Cleveland, probably just like the poster dunk he had on like Klay Thompson, and now being an announcer or a broadcaster on ESPN. But for me and you, two dudes who are pushing up on their 30s, grew up in this time, like we're coming up, about to be teenagers. Richard Jefferson was really good, man. Like he was really good. And in this game, he stepped up, man. This is only his third year in the league. And 31 and 11 in a big game like this. And he just, another good thing about him is like he didn't look scared. Like we would talk, I think, on a separate pod. I think we mentioned about Keith Van Horn, but when he was on the Nets that first year they made it to the finals, there was some times where he looked scared,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like understandable. It's a big stage, but that's why the Nets got rid of him because it was just clear cut. Even Richard Jefferson's rookie year, like this dude was confident and he was out playing Keith Van Horn sometimes. And in this game, 30-30-10 double is like that's great, man. That was great. So I just wanted to say that because I think RJ really deserves like that credit, man. Because without his contributions, the Nets definitely don't pull this one out as well.
Yeah. RJ had 31, 11 rebounds, 4 assists in 53 minutes.
What'd he shoot? What was his
8
field
for
goal?
8 for 15.
So over 50%. Did he get to the line a lot?
13 of 18.
That could be better, but at
Still
least
$18.
at least he's aggressive.
No one
So
else on the Nets had more than 10 free throws.
yeah, so I want to use that to segue real quick. These are the game stats, right? And one thing in particular, like, really stood out to me, bro. The Nets went 37 for 86 from the field this game. The Pistons went 42 for 111. The Pistons shot 25 more shots than the Nets. And you're thinking, how the hell did the Nets pull this game out? They shot 25 more times than you, dude. That's like almost a whole other quarter's worth of field goal attempts. And it was just a lot of offensive rebounds. And also, the Pistons got a lot more steals than the Nets in this game. Like, I didn't write that down, but when I was looking at it, that definitely stood out to me. The Pistons had a lot more steals. So if you're getting steals, the Nets aren't even getting shots up. And that might have been also something that contributed to that huge disparity in field goal attempts. The Nets go. Gad, you want to say something?
Yeah, it says that they doubled it. The Nets had 8 assists. I mean, 8 steals, and the Pistons had 16 steals.
Yeah, so it's hard to get a field goal. I mean, it's hard to get a shot up when you're getting the ball stolen.
Yeah, turnovers is 28 for the Nets, 17 for the Pistons.
Even that, like, Yo, the Nets had 11 more turnovers than the Pistons. In most cases, some of these things that we're mentioning for the Nets, it looks like these things are just stacked against them, and you just wonder how the hell did they pull this game out? Now, I'm gonna tell you two things immediately that come to mind on how they won this game. They shot 11 for 24 from threes this game. The Pistons shot 6 for 25. So the Nets made 5 more threes than the Pistons this game. And the free throws, dude, 42 for 55 from the line for the Nets. The Nets shot 55 free throws this game. That's a huge number, dude. The Pistons shot 42 in their own right, 30 for 42, but the Nets made 12 more free throws than the Pistons this game, shot 13 more of them, and made 5 more threes. You add that up, and that's how they were able to win this game. They were just a little more aggressive, drawing more fouls, and for the most part, making them count.
This is the outlier in the whole series. Like, there's no other game like this in the whole series.
Yeah, game 6 after this is well, actually, like game 6 was actually pretty competitive. It didn't go triple overtime, but it came down to the last couple seconds. Game 7, Pistons blew the Nets out. But yeah, for sure, this was the one game in this series that was insane. Triple overtime, and it has to be mentioned real quick. I said the Pistons shot 30 for 42 from the line. Remember earlier I told you Ben Wallace was 4 for 12?
Yeah.
So the Pistons missed 12 free throws as a team. 8 of those come from Ben Wallace. So you're literally thinking if Ben Wallace just wasn't such a horrific free throw shooter, the Pistons could have won this game. But it seems like that's how it is in the league, man. Like with these crazy shot block rebound guys, it's like God just says you need to have one flaw. You can't be like this good, so it's gonna be free throws. You can't shoot them to save your life. Like imagine if Shaq was an 80% free throw shooter or even like a 70% free throw shooter. He would have tore the league up even more, dude. There would have been no hack a Shaq. Lakers could have like definitely won 4 or 5 in a row. But yeah.
I think that's it, right? For the whole game, or did you have something else to say?
I mean, I don't know. I guess just to recap what happens after this game. Pistons take it in 7. They beat the Nets 90-69, I want to say. In game 7, the Nets reign in the East comes to an end. They don't make the third straight NBA Finals. Pistons go all the way to the NBA Finals, upset the Lakers in super crazy fashion, and basically dismantle the Kobe and Shaq Lakers. Pistons win the ring. And as far as the Nets go, after this season, the Nets pretty much dismantle their team as well. They trade away Kenya Martin, trade away Kerry Kittles, trade away Rodney Rogers, trade away Lucius Harris, and the Nets go kind of into a period of rebuilding. So, yeah, it was definitely like the outcome of this game just set the teams in like totally different directions. And it also has to be mentioned that the Nets were the only team in those '04 playoffs to take the Pistons the full distance. The Pistons beat the Pacers in 6 and mollywopped the Lakers in 5. So who knows, man? Things could have, in a perfect world, things could have been different for the Nets. But yeah, after the season, they get dismantled and it's a whole different era of basketball in New Jersey.
Yeah, it's crazy that the Pistons won a game against the Lakers 88-68. That's crazy, man. 68 points from a team with Shaq and Kobe.
Yeah, their defense, man.
Nuts.
Yeah, man. But yo, man, I think that's gonna wrap it up for this one, man. This has been Game 5, 2004 Eastern Conference semifinals, Nets versus Pistons, here on 5230 Hoops. I am the man from Jersey.
This is Swag.
And we'll see you guys on the next one, man. Like, comment, share, subscribe. and let us know if you guys even like these videos. Yeah. See you guys on the next one.
See ya.